security team. This is not the SDL team. The risk team usually handles that. If you've got it automated, there are GRC tools that will automatically ping the risk owner. Hey, do you still need this? Hey, do you still need this? That's the best way to do it, is when you have the automation set up and it's just continuously pinging the vendor, if that makes sense. Or the vendor, did I just say the vendor? The risk owner. And does everybody know what I mean when I say GRC? Okay, no. Governance, risk, and compliance. So they're just tools, and that's a whole function. Right now, that's my current job. I'm head of trust and assurance. So that's basically my main job. But I'm going to start up, so we all share. There's only 3 of us, so we share everything. And then every environment is unique, as I've already kind of mentioned. AWS, mentioned those as 3 buckets. Azure is different. Different services, configurations, you've containers, you've got Docker, you've got Kubernetes. And then per most contracts, the provider is not responsible, as I mentioned, Amazon's not responsible if you don't set those security settings in your S3 buckets right. And they clearly state that all over their documents and on their websites and whatnot. And they're not responsible for encrypting it in transit, right? You've got to set up that encryption, not them. And then recommended practice that I think that most people agree on is create a separate threat model for each environment. Another reason to do this is it makes it easier for the folks creating the threat models, and it also makes it easier to update and maintain them. If you put too many services in one threat model, it just looks like this giant spider web thing. And it really is a lot easier, even though it's like seems like, okay, we've got to create 3, but it's still easier to maintain and manage those 3, because then from an update and management perspective, you don't have to worry about trying to even read it or understand it, because it just becomes too spidery looking.
So just to touch on that topic real quick, AWS is generally infrastructure as a service, right? So, but for the company you work for, it's a security as a service. So that model is different, right? So
we're not a security company.
Oh, you're not?
Nope. No, we're field services management, like guys that are going out to work on hospital equipment.
So that's why I was wondering.
It's a SaaS company.
Okay.
Yeah, we're SaaS, but we're not security.
Okay. But, you know,
software as a service. We're software as a service.
Software as not security. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But for companies that do offer security as a service, right? That model, then if we don't set up our security infrastructure.
Oh, well, that's different. That's your job.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, we're software as a service. I do not want to be security as a service. That's a whole nother level of headache. I'm too old for that now. Tired.
Good question here. You know about the threat modeling. Does that have anything to do with compliance at all, or not? Totally separate thing?
Compliance is completely separate. However, if you have, I will tell you what is in pretty much every specification, your SOC 2, your ISO, PCI, they all ask if you have a SDL program, some kind of code review program. And as part, they will then look at your SDL program. And if they feel pieces, parts are missing, then they may call it out.
Okay.
So that's how it ties to compliance. Is it's a area on all of those regs. In NIST 800.
Change management as well. Tying to change management as well.
Yeah, and then FedRAMP, and I think there's 7. I don't know if you run into this, but I think there's 7 SDL specifications in the FedRAMP NIST stuff too. So there were 7 different things they were asking for when the auditors came in around SDL specifically. So yeah, they typically look for the pieces parts. And again, being compliant doesn't make you secure. We all know that, right? So, and even though we're in a new environment, we actually say that a lot. My boss, all 3 of us, and especially me and my boss, we are always saying, "Hey, this compliance thing doesn't mean we're secure. You still gotta do this other stuff." So, folks are slowly getting it, which is good. And we kind of answered and asked questions throughout. Are any other remaining kind of questions around this?
Yeah, you talk about threat modeling stuff. Do you actually use more of your own tool, or it's free open source, or you?
Microsoft is free.
Huh?
Microsoft is free.
Okay, it's free. Okay.
The other threat model is free. That's another reason we used it in past lives, because it was free and it was flexible.
Okay.
So we had the flexibility to create our own templates.
The
So we did.
template can be used for all kinds of.
Infrastructure. They don't have an infrastructure template in it. So yeah, you could use it. Actually, you know, I'll give you another example of a template for Microsoft Threat Modeler is GE Health did it for medical devices. So that security team has to worry about medical devices.
Okay.
So they actually created their own template because those scanners and stuff have a different protocol language they use to communicate. It's very specific. So they had to do their own threat research, assess what would get plugged into the threat modeling tool. So now their engineers and developers can drag and drop devices like scanners, like CAT scans, MRI machines, and they can drag and drop it into their threat model. But they had to create that template themselves because it was very specific.
And is there any does a threat modeling Microsoft provide support?
Nope.
Different kind of programming language?
No, you don't need to be a programmer. We had a tech writer help us do it. No, I mean, it was easy. And then from a training perspective, I'm wearing my SDL shirt. So I did the blue matrix code with the SDL space. So I bought all of the security champions these. And then I also had the red team come in for the penetration piece of this and do CFP, or capture the flags. So we did capture the flags and I had challenge coins made. So people that participated got challenge coins. And I will tell you that folks loved it when the red team all came over and did that. And they also did container security for training for the developers. And it was all specific to our environment, our tools, and our systems. So it could be confidential. They could ask all the questions they wanted and get them answered live. And some of the people that started out as what I'll call my scratchiest developers or engineers who kind of resisted security, one of them was in the front row of that training. Like, he was all in and wanted to learn, because another thing I always tell people is, you know, as the keynote spoke about, we're basically zero unemployment rate, right? So I would remind the developers and engineers of that. I'm like, hey, you did threat modeling. You need to put that on your resume. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then when folks were leaving my one company, because they had to, the developers were all leaving and the engineers were leaving, and one of them was like, Carolyn, I promise I will build security in no matter where I go. I will always develop it. And I was just like, yes. And I was like, I didn't care that he was leaving. Somebody was leaving with the right mindset. And that's what was super important. So you can get those scratchy people to end up being in the front row too. It's just working one-on-one with them. Make as least amount of friction as far as their time management as possible. Automate everything you can, and find those solutions that work, like maybe putting Threat Modeler in S3 bucket or in Amazon or in AWS. So you don't have to worry about VMs on Macs and things like that. So there's crafty solutions you can do to help execute. So I hope you guys got something out of this, or walk away with some thoughts. Again, when I was here a couple of years ago, I ended up mentoring a couple of people, and always happy to do that, happy to answer questions. If you want to let me know. Okay? Thanks.